The Senate questioning of Kash Patel exposes troubling signs of politicization in the FBI. References to an enemies list and actions against officials raise concerns about loyalty over merit. The Janine Pirro background investigation highlights potential political influence on career processes. This exchange underscores the need for transparency, accountability, and nonpartisan oversight.
There have been adverse actions of various kinds taken against about 20 of the 60 people on your enemies list. You've been in office for 7 months. At that rate, you've got 14 months until you've hit all 60. Can you explain that?
Again, that is an entirely inaccurate presupposition. I do not have an enemies list. You can continue to characterize it as you wish. The only actions we take, generally speaking, for personnel at the FBI are ones based on merit and qualification and your ability to uphold your constitutional duty. You fall short, you don't work there anymore.
Well, there was a list. You don't like it to be called an enemies list, and it had about 60 names, and about 20 have had an adverse action. So those are, I think, pretty clear facts. Let me move on to your grand jury testimony, which we also talked about when you were here. I think you indicated that you understood that a witness in the grand jury is free to discuss afterwards whatever they told the grand jury. And you then went on to suggest, saying, I can't go into court orders granted by the DC District Chief Judge, and you want me to violate a court order. In those remarks, you fairly plainly suggested that there was a court order of some kind that somehow restricted or limited your ability to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury. Since then, that chief judge that you mentioned, Judge Boasberg, has written, and I'm quoting him here, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allows witnesses like Patel to divulge the contents of their testimony, meaning that nothing was preventing him from doing so before the committee. Can we confirm here today that there is no court order of any kind that limits your ability as a witness before the grand jury to discuss your own testimony to that grand jury?
We can confirm that pursuant to my action that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript.
Let's, in what forum was it released, may I ask?
Publicly.
Okay, we'll check on that. The FBI does background investigations. In the case of a U.S. attorney, Janine Pirro, it has come to light that in a civil proceeding, that Fox News executives, prior to her confirmation, called her, I'm quoting here, a reckless maniac who makes, quote, insane comments, and said, I don't trust her to be responsible, and noted her penchant for what they called random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. My question to you is, did that turn up in her background investigation?
For any background investigation, Senator, we do not discuss those publicly. And for every background investigation, when there's an adjudication, it is not made by me. It is made by the career professionals who run the inspection division and background check system.
Do you know if that information was found? You see, we're an oversight body here, and there are really three possibilities here. One is that the FBI background investigation didn't find that stuff. That's worth noting because these investigations, full field background investigations, are supposed to find that stuff. That's possibility one. Possibility two is that the FBI did in fact find that information and then did not report it to the administration or to the committee. And the third is that you found it, you reported it to the administration, and they went ahead with her nomination, knowing that she had been described as a reckless maniac who made insane comments, who wasn't trusted by colleagues to be responsible, and who had a penchant for random conspiracy theories on weird internet sites. Are you saying that this committee does not have any authority or reason to look into which of those things is true?
This committee can look into anything it wishes. I'm telling you that the background investigations that are done by the HRD division are done by career individuals. They do not report the details of those to me. They adjudicate those independently and individually. That's how it's always been done.
The Senate exchange regarding Kash Patel underscores profound concerns about the politicization of the FBI and the erosion of institutional independence. From a progressive standpoint, the discussion about Patel's so-called enemies list is particularly alarming. Even as he denies its existence, the documented adverse actions taken against roughly 20 of the 60 individuals allegedly on that list within 7 months suggest a systematic targeting of career officials, raising questions about the criteria used to evaluate performance and the motivations behind terminations. A liberal analysis emphasizes that federal law enforcement should operate based on merit, constitutional duty, and evidence, not personal or political loyalty to the director or the administration. The very notion that employees might be evaluated or removed based on perceived alignment with a political figure fundamentally undermines the impartiality of the Bureau and sets a dangerous precedent for the weaponization of law enforcement. The exchange also illuminates deeper structural issues within oversight and accountability mechanisms. When Patel invoked grand jury secrecy and the supposed constraints of court orders to justify withholding information, it exemplifies how procedural arguments can be used to avoid substantive scrutiny. Judge Boasberg's clarification that Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allowed Patel to release his testimony highlights a discrepancy between legal realities and administrative practices, raising the question of whether procedural technicalities were deployed strategically to shield politically sensitive decisions. Progressives would argue that this points to a pattern in which oversight is circumvented, even when career officials are expected to adhere to strict transparency standards. It reinforces the need for robust congressional and institutional oversight to ensure that political appointees cannot exploit legal interpretations to mask actions that compromise fairness or integrity. The discussion of the Janine Pirro background investigation further illustrates the risks of political influence on career processes. According to the transcript, Fox News executives characterized Pirro as reckless, untrustworthy, and prone to conspiracy theories, yet the committee remains uncertain whether the FBI's background checks uncovered and communicated these findings, or if political considerations allowed her nomination to proceed regardless. From a progressive perspective, this situation highlights a systemic vulnerability. Career investigators can be bypassed or ignored in favor of political expediency, undermining public confidence in the professionalism and objectivity of the Bureau. When personnel evaluations or background checks are influenced, even indirectly, by partisan interests, the integrity of federal appointments and law enforcement is jeopardized. Moreover, Patel's repeated reliance on procedural deflection, asserting that career professionals independently adjudicate background investigations, or that he cannot comment on ongoing inquiries, while legally defensible, sidesteps the ethical and democratic expectations of accountability. Progressives emphasize that the purpose of oversight is not merely to adhere to the letter of law, but to ensure the spirit of impartiality, transparency, and justice is upheld. In a functioning democracy, federal law enforcement officials must be insulated from political pressures, and their decisions must be communicated openly to the public and Congress. Anything short of this fosters suspicion, erodes trust, and risks allowing partisan priorities to dictate outcomes in ways that threaten civil liberties and the rule of law. This exchange also exposes the broader societal consequences of such politicization. When the public perceives that loyalty to a political figure supersedes commitment to the Constitution, confidence in institutions like the FBI diminishes. Citizens rely on law enforcement agencies to act independently, fairly, and consistently. Undermining these principles encourages cynicism, reduces cooperation with authorities, and deepens political polarization. Patel's testimony, coupled with reports of targeted adverse actions, underscores the critical importance of maintaining career professionalism, protecting whistleblowers, and ensuring that political appointees cannot weaponize agencies for partisan gain. From a progressive lens, The Senate hearing is a stark reminder that safeguarding democratic institutions requires vigilance, accountability, and a steadfast commitment to meritocracy over political loyalty. The integrity of the FBI, and by extension, the broader justice system, depends on these principles being actively upheld.